Hey everybody, welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate that. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to Hidden Horror. Happy Monday to you. How are you doing? Is all well? How was your weekend? Do you have major plans this week? I'd like to know, okay? So today I'm here. I want to get back a little bit more into the Idaho 4 murder case. I want to let you guys know that I have been behind the scenes doing some research, and I have been looking so hard for the video. There was two videos that I saw a little bit over a year ago. One video was of Ethan and Zana appearing to go into like an apartment. It was like a two-story building, probably similar to Linda Lane, how the layout is. It's a flat building and then it's storied, and they were going into a apartment that was on the first floor. And then the other video that I saw, and I didn't believe it. I didn't think it was real, but I saw a video where there was at least two police cars. Their lights were on. It was very dark. It appeared to be a person, which I believe to be Maddie, laying on the ground, and then Kaylee was struggling. What appeared to be a police officer. It almost appeared to be multiple police officers on the video because it was as if I was seeing it from like a body cam video, and I saw Kaylee go down. I didn't think the video was real in the sense of if I can't verify it, if it's not out in the news, I try not to bring forth that information. So when I saw the video, I immediately put it out of my mind. I didn't think the video was real. I didn't really take a lot of thought because at that time, this was before I started to change my view on what I was going to come forward. For the most part, in the beginning, I was following the case, all of the emotions, all the up and downs. And that's not really me. I tend to have my own opinion and I tend to go over the evidence to come to my own opinion. I try to review it, I try to read the motions, and then I think about the crime scene, the layout, if there's pictures, if there's video, if there's testimony, if there's witnesses. I try to go with a whole approach from different angles. And I feel like for so long, myself and probably others were kind of being led by the media, with what the media said, the press releases, the information that was leaking out. The families were doing a lot of interviews at this time. And I didn't really like that. So I started to think, when I had a little bit of time after, I would say, the summer of 2023, I started to think about the case a little bit more. I actually was on vacation when I did one of my videos, that 2.5 hour video. I was out of town, but it was really late in the morning, maybe like I started the video maybe like 11 p.m., 10 p.m., and it went into like 1 to 2 a.m. But I talked all things, just expressing myself about the Idaho 4 case, the information about Bryan Kohberger, all of that. I just sat down and I just talked freely. And what really changed the trajectory of how I started presenting my information, I stopped so much focusing on what the media was saying, and I started looking more at the victims, at the house. This was before the house was torn down. So I would say it all started like that July. Then I did that video in August, and then when October hit and there was no date for the trial, I said, you know what? I have a lot of time. Let me start taking more time to go over all of the evidence. And that's when I started the various individual videos. I did a video about sharp injuries. I did the video about stalking. I did the video about the GPS. Like I started doing individual videos because what I was doing, I was taking some of the largest evidence and kind of taking it apart to figure out, does this fit when I apply it, to the case, what happened, is this truthful? Because what I started feeling like I was almost making a case where Bryan Kohberger, he may have been set up by police. And I just kept going over and over everything. Just for example, even now to this day, you don't hear me bring up a lot of news reports about the Idaho 4 because we are not getting any newly released evidence or information. We have the gag order. We're just getting some things coming out. But I went back. I spent a big portion of Sunday. I was going to actually do 2 to 3 videos yesterday that I have kind of pending. But I actually spent a couple of hours Sunday going over some more information. I literally am not even doing a video on what I was reviewing. But unfortunately, I found some more devastating video. I cannot share it. I cannot bring it to the platform because I can't confirm where it came from. But it's not the videos that I saw last year, not the 2 videos that I saw last year, but I found 2 videos. And unfortunately, one of the videos purport to have caught some of the interaction between Kaylee, Maddie, and the killer on audio, and is right on YouTube. But I'm not going to play it or anything. But there's some parts of the video where you can hear yelling, you can hear someone say run, you can hear them say Kaylee, like it's a lot. But I can't authenticate where the video came from. And unless it's introduced as evidence, I don't think anybody created this video or falsified the video. The screams are chilling. What I feel from watching the video, and I watched the video over and over and over. I even had some other people listen to the video. It almost appears that the video is from possibly 3 different recordings. So to me, I almost feel like it could be a video that was obtained from police, because when you have a body cam, each officer is going to have their body cam on, and it's picking up the same activity, but it's like repeated 3 times. So what I found in police videos where there's a body cam, if you only have sound, you don't actually have the physical activity of what's happening. Each body cam will be played back to back. And in this instance, it appears that there are at least 3 body cams. But because I can't provide where this video came from, I'm not going to share it. I'm not going to promote it. But I'm telling you, I watched that video over and over. And then, excuse me, let me turn that off. Okay, I apologize. Then there was a second video. This video allegedly was on the night of the murder. So I'm going to say Saturday, November 12th into Sunday, November 13th. I don't have a timestamp for it. But this video, it purportedly discusses some activity that happened in the area of a camera that's picking up the sound and the words. And the thing about this video is really demonstrating that there was some activity going on that night. Now, I cannot authenticate the sound, but what I found was there could have been some truth behind some of the rumors where there was some allegations that some of the students were overdosing, because in this video with this sound, specifically they're saying that one of the students had overdosed and that they needed to get them to the hospital. There was a lot of back and forth conversation. Other people were involved. A lot of other names were said on this video, but you don't see anything. Again, it's like the physical activity of the people is not there, but the sound was picked up, the words was picked up. And initially, I remember um, I was watching a video, a YouTube video, and it was said, it was rumored that some or all of the students had overdosed. There was a huge problem with overdosing at the university and in this area where the fraternities and sororities were. And it was rumored that this was a cover up, that there was some overdosing, and to cover up the overdosing because there was sales of illegal drugs. The stabbings happened. Now, could two things be true at the same time, right? We have this audio. Could we have Kaylee and Maddie potentially, possibly being unalived by police officers and also overdosing separately with other victims, where other victims overdosed and placed at 1122 King Road? I have no idea. I can't, I don't know what the source of the videos are from, so I can't share them. I think it would be wrong to share them when I can't say that these are true and valid videos. But I was searching for hours. I tried everything. I was able to go back in my history through YouTube, but I could not locate the videos, these two videos that I've said a couple of times on the channel about the Idaho 4, and in particular, the video where it appears Kaylee and Maddie were unalived by police officers. So I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep searching. I don't know if these videos are scrubbed. Are they removed? They should show in my history as viewing them, though, and I cannot find them because you can't go back in history that far. That's over a year. However, you can search by name, and I am lapping over a year. I'm going back to, I believe, as far as 2020, but I cannot find the video. So I'm just going to keep trying, trying different word searches, and if I find the video, I will be able to share it with you. Or if you know about the video that I'm describing, you can send me a message on Messenger to Hidden Horror if you go through my Facebook page, or you can send me a message on X, and I can get it that way. Or you can post it if you don't want to be, if you don't want your information known, don't post it in my YouTube comments, but contact me those other two ways. So I would appreciate that. But anyway, I wanted to tell you that because I've been going through, I've been thinking about the case. It's just, it's one of those cases that you just feel like, is the truth ever going to come out? What happened to these four students? How did this come to be for them, for their lives, this day, at this time? Four young people brutally stabbed to death. Why did it happen? Why did it happen to them? Was there anything else going on? Was there drugs involved? Was was there a fight? Was there an argument? Were other people there the night that this happened besides the two alive roommates? If that's even true, right? We don't know. Um, was there a sixth roommate, not including Ethan? Was there a sixth roommate living there at the time? And if so, who are they? What do they know? What are their connections to the other roommates? And potentially, how long had they been living there? How did they get along with the group? Who were their friends and family, etc. So it just makes you think about a lot of things. And unfortunately, because there's so much reasonable doubt, I think I can't even really anticipate a trial because I really feel like there needs to be a refocus. I have said this before. I think the biggest mistake was tearing down the house, besides other initial mistakes with the police. There was some information that came out that there was a jacket outside, that was found in like the trash or on the street or something like that. I don't remember. But they were saying that it was one of the girls' jackets, possibly. Like, I'm wondering, when this happened, did the police go and search the trash, dumpsters? Like, this is like basic um, investigative tools. You do a perimeter search, you look on the ground, you search the trash cans, you search in areas where someone could ditch clothing, a weapon. Um, was anything taken from these victims? This does not appear to be any type of robbery. It doesn't appear that there was an outstanding fight where people would hear it. Um, Even though this area could have been loud because it was a Saturday, right? It could have been other parties and things like that going on. Now, at the time, after 2 a.m. to, let's say, 4:30 a.m., was it as loud as it would be in maybe the earlier parts of Saturday night leading into Sunday morning? Because people start to settle down. I don't know what time the bars close there, but for example, 3 a.m. or 2 a.m., what was sound like that night? I just think about so many things, and it's like you end up having way more questions than answers, more in particular because not just that you have four victims, but you don't really have um, a reason why. You don't have someone that was in an argument and something unfolded. You don't have people that appear to be fighting. From looking at the picture that night, and I'll pull it up because I have it here. From looking at that picture, the night of the murders into that Sunday morning, these kids, they were doing normal things. They were going out, they were hanging together, they were amongst their friends, they were enjoying life. Um, they went to a bar. Kaylee and Maddie went to a bar that night. They went and had food afterwards at the grub truck. They went home. They're not out doing anything that would be suspicious. Who follows them or who lies in wait to do this? Or was there somebody already there? Or did somebody come later? Or did they go and take the dog out and encounter someone that was in the dark out there was no light in that area. The front of the house was extremely dark, and behind the house, it was extremely dark. You could easily hide behind the house. So, you know, you end up just having so many thoughts, so many questions. And I've gone back to the beginning. I've gone over, a lot of the details, and, you just have more questions, more concerns. And you just want to know what happened to these students, right? So let's get to why I'm here today. As we all know, this case, it was international news. Everybody, it got my attention. It got me to start a YouTube channel because I was just seeing the media, and I just couldn't believe just the forming of a narrative, not being totally honest with the public, um, kind of forming um, different ideas that would lead you to believe that this person they've arrested, Bryan Kohberger, that he's guilty. But once you start looking at all the evidence individually, I don't know. It's a pretty hard sell for me, um, from just what I know, and I think he I think it could be I think if it's a one-sided story, you could make a case for Bryan Kohberger. But I think because there is a defense, um, there's just so many things that you just don't know, um, with the evidence, if it's even, I don't want to say valid, but I don't want to say real, but it's just hard. You know, you don't want to attack the state and their efforts in the investigation. However, it's just a lot of things that are not right in this case. And I think you would rather err on the side of not prosecuting someone at this time with the known evidence than going forward and you don't get a second chance. You can't have double jeopardy. So I would like a rock solid case, something very strong. And maybe there's evidence that we don't know about. We're not going to know everything. However, I believe when you write a PCA and you put forth a case in front of a grand jury, you're establishing the case with your strongest evidence. And can we say that it's the car? I just don't think so. I don't see it in the video. On top of that, when I saw the car that was abandoned in Oregon, I just had red flags go up. We've already, touched over other things that's really concerning, like the touch DNA, the knife sheath not having any blood after a gruesome, brutal, vicious attack with two people on that third floor. It doesn't have a drop of blood. It reminds me, when I hear stuff like that, I think of the O.J. Simpson trial and how, I'm going to say allegedly, but Mark Furman allegedly, tampered with the evidence and tried to frame O.J. Simpson. It just reminds me of that. It reminds me of how they handled, the evidence, how they planted the evidence. And I just, again, reasonable doubt, reasonable doubt. So, anyway, let's move to what we're here for today. Due to the notoriety of this case, the viciousness of four college students, being killed, their lives taken in such a heinous manner. Um, this case, of course, it got a lot of attention, right? Um, I think it's really a no-brainer with the change of venue. If you can't have people that are in a place where they can listen to testimony and fairly judge a case, I think you're going to have problems with a jury. I think because the media released so many details, including the families. I beg the families, please don't make any more statements. Don't release any more of the details. If they do find a killer, it's almost virtually impossible for the police to really take evidence that's already been released in the public and then question a potential suspect because all of the evidence has been leaking out. It's been leaking out. It's been really bad. So anyway, my article today is coming from today.com. It's titled Attorneys for Bryan Kohberger, Suspect in Idaho Murders Case Filed to Change Trial Venue. The article is on today.com. It's dated December 30th, 2022, and it was updated July 24th, 2024, and it's by Samantha Kubalta and Anna Kaplan. Attorneys for Bryan Kohberger, the man suspected of fatally stabbing four University of Idaho students in 2022, continue to push for his trial to be moved in a court filing, arguing that Latah County has been utterly corrupted by press coverage. And we all know that. We all know it's been a lot of media coverage. And once they get ideas about a case, sometimes you can't take those ideas out. If you believe, for example, that Bryan Kohberger stalked the victims, you may not be able to forget about that, even if it's not introduced in court as evidence. You may feel in your mind that Bryan Kohberger was a stalker. He stalked the girls. So even if it's not introduced into evidence, you may have that bias because you can't take that thought away. And that's just like one of like many things. Okay, so let's continue. The defense cited a survey they conducted that found 70% of locals have already formed a guilty opinion of Kohberger. 70%. So if you had 10 people, 7 out of 10 already believe Kohberger is guilty. Without a trial, without any testimony, without any witnesses, they've already said he's guilty. I'm comfortable saying he did it. He's guilty. Wow. They argued the trial should be moved to Boise in Idaho's largest county. So they probably want to go to Boise because they're going to have a bigger jury pool and you may have a little bit less coverage in the media, in the print. But in all honesty, this case has taken a firestorm across the country. They want to talk about the victims. They want to know about the victims. They want to know about their families. What was their lives like? Where did they work? Where did they go to school? What did they do? What were their dreams? And that's just the victims. Then you have to look at the suspect. What was his occupation? Where was he from? What was he doing? What was he like? What was his personality? How did he grow up? I mean, the questions and thoughts can go on and on. The same things that I think. And I wonder and I contemplate, especially with the alive two roommates. Why not them? And I'm not saying in a harsh way or a funny way, but 4 out of 6 people, you hear screams, you hear a battle in the house. It's just so odd that you don't have 6 victims, which I'm very happy you don't have 6 victims. But I'm just saying that it's an odd thing. People are gonna wonder, hey, were you involved? Did you do this? Did you set this up? Were you there? What do you know? What did you hear? What did you see? What were the text messages like? What were you doing that night? Where did you go? Who were you with? Who was in the house? Like I can do 100 questions easily. That's what people are going to think, right? So this is like a very explosive case due to the circumstances of all 4, Ethan, Maddie, Zayna, and Kaylee passing. People are going to have a lot of questions. Okay. Elisa Massoff, an attorney for Kohberger, previously said in court on April 10th that denying a change of venue would mean Mr. Kohberger's constitutional right to a fair trial is denied. I agree. I think it's a common sense approach when you have this much notoriety. You just move the trial. Prosecutors have been pushing back on moving the trial since January, saying media coverage of the case is widespread, way beyond Latah County. I think that's factual. I think everybody could agree, but that's not the point. You may have people that are tied to the victims that went to school with the victims, or their children know the victims. Um, Sometimes in smaller areas, people are more closely connected. And for example, you don't want to have people that are connected in a way that could also look like there may be bias. And I say maybe because some people, they're not, but you could potentially argue that there could be some bias there just on knowing the victims or having a connection to the victims or working where they worked or going to school where they went to school or so many other examples, right? So it's easier to eliminate that potential issue by taking the trial, placing it in another county, but also keeping it in the state where you still have a jury of the peers um, there. Okay. It says Latah County District Judge John C. Judge is set to decide whether to move the trial out of Latah County at a hearing scheduled for August 27th. If the trial is moved, it could affect the start date. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett said on Today, on July 24th, that the likelihood of the case being moved to a different venue is pretty high. I've talked to prosecutors down there, and they've said, look, the issue is that the Latah County community is so tight that the jury pool is going to know somebody who knows somebody, Jared said. I agree. I think when you have a community and especially a close, connected, kind of interrelated community, it's great, right? You can get a lot done. You can get support. You can get volunteers. You can get people to come together. You can accomplish a lot of goals because everybody's tied into the same ideas. The hard part is you have to look at the rights of the suspect, the person that's being tried, and you have to protect his rights. And he does have a right to a fair trial, and that may equate to or mean or require that this case is moved from this area. Being so closely connected together, the connections with police, the law enforcement community, the University of Idaho, everything is kind of interwoven. Okay. We're talking about the difference between over 500,000 residents in Boise versus 40,000 people in the community that we're facing here. So that's a big difference, right? That's more than 10 times. So the jury pool, it will be a lot larger. It will probably be more vast because you're going to have such a bigger number, and you're not going to have issues with picking a jury because you're going to have so many potential jurors that you can go through, and you only have so many challenges, but because you want to get it right, you may have more difficulty in Latah County versus if you go to Boise. Okay. So a judge laid out a plan on June 27 for Kohberger to stand trial starting in June of 2025. So this actually works for the prosecutor because they were concerned about having the trial during the time where the university would be in. Plus, at Latah County, there's a school near the building, so they want to make sure that there's not a lot of traffic there. And you're going to have issues with the media coverage. Where are people going to stay? Where are they going to rent hotels? Where are they going to eat? Because in this community, by it being a lot smaller, you may not have as much space, housing for all of the media coverage that's going to descend and be there day by day. I might even have to go to Idaho because I'm that interested, right? I might have to see this for myself. I don't know. Summers are more flexible for me, so I may be able to go down there and show you some things. I know I have to think about it. I have to look towards my schedule and travel and things like that that I have going on next summer. But because the dates keep getting pushed out and out, I won't make any plans to next year. But I'm going to think about it because I'm interested, as other YouTube creators are going to be on the ground there to see it, to go see the house, to go to the University of Idaho, to go to some of these places, to go to Linda Lane, to talk to people. If you are in Idaho and you want me to interview you or you want me to talk to you, please send me a message. You don't have to post it in my YouTube comments. Again, you can message me on my Facebook, Hidden or on X, and we can arrange something, right? If I come into town, I'll gladly sit down with anyone that wants to talk about the case. Um, Discuss everything. I can have some questions prepared, or you can tell me what your interest is in the case. So hey, let's make it happen, right? So anyway, you know if they go to Boise, there was going to be more opportunity for people that are coming in, that are just there for the trial, for the media coverage, going in and out daily following this case, right? You definitely want to go into a bigger city, and they're going to have more hotels and things like that. So that's just my opinion. Anyway, um, the Latah County court confirmed to NBC News the trial was scheduled to start on June 2nd, 2025. And I'm guessing they're probably going to mark maybe like 6 to 8 weeks for the trial. I'm sure they'll be able to estimate how long the trial will be, depending on their witnesses. But I'm sure they're going to look at several weeks for this trial to go on. So let's continue. During a hearing on June 27th, Latah County District Judge John C. Judge said he expected the trial to take around 3 months. 3 months? What? Wow, 3 months? I'm thinking 6 to 8 weeks, 3 months? There must be some huge witness lists. Wow. Anyway, including sentencing if Kohberger was convicted. So they're adding the sentencing on too. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Judge asked the prosecution and defense to try to meet several upcoming deadlines, saying, I just don't want to be scrambling a month before the trial. Oh, they definitely shouldn't be scrambling. They can actually do status conferences to keep updating each other, to make sure primarily that they're prepared and that they don't have any issues way before leading up to the trial. I think the biggest challenge is they're still fighting over the evidence, what evidence they should have, what they should share. Like last time I watched court, I really couldn't believe it, and I don't want to target anybody, but I was thinking about showing some of the testimony of two of the people that have testified, and some of the stuff they're saying is like unbelievable. Like they're not taking accountability for the evidence. It's pretty much, hey, I don't know what happened to it. Hey, go down to the police department, walk down there to the police department and ask them. Go look in the storage unit and ask them to find it for you. It's like, it's unbelievable. I'm like totally shocked that evidence still has not been provided. And it's like lackadaisical, like, I don't know. You gotta go ask them. They don't take any responsibility. Yeah, it's shocking. Okay. Ann Taylor, an attorney for Kohberger, said in court she was also working toward a June 2025 trial and said it was reasonable. I think she could say reasonable if she gets the evidence that she needs, all of the evidence, so that her experts in whatever lab she needs done, whatever lab work, she has time to do that. So I think it is reasonable if everything that she's asked for and is asking for and has asked for a long time gets provided. It says the date comes about a year and a half after Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Zaina Kernodle, and Ethan Chapman were found stabbed to death in their off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho on the morning of November 13th, 2022. In a statement to NBC News after the trial date was set, the family of Kaylee Goncalves said it was a good day today. And I know it's important that the family have something to look forward to, something set in stone. What's hard is I just think that in this case, with what is known at this point, I would hate for the family to place the hope into this prosecution of Bryan Kohberger. Um, I think there is a lot of missing information that we don't know. What were those kids doing those 8 hours after allegedly the murders took place at 4:30 a.m.? I'm going to say between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. That's what I believe. But what were the kids doing? Who were the kids there? How long were they there? What were they doing? What do they know? Has the police done a thorough investigation? You know, I'm just going to always say I want justice for the four students. And this has nothing to do with anybody else. I don't care who the person is that did it. I don't serve anybody's interest. I'm not in anybody's pocket. Nobody's paying me to say anything. I choose my content. These are my words, my opinions, and nobody owns me. So I'm disinterested in the outcome. I just want justice. Justice for Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Zayna. It's simple for me. That's all I care about. That's my focus. That's why I'm going back. I'm trying to figure this thing out in my prayers. I want direction. I want discernment. If I have to read, if I have to study over and over again, I'm going to uncover every piece that I can to help figure this out. Okay? More than 6 weeks after the slayings, police arrested Kohberger, then 28, in Pennsylvania. Kohberger was charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of felony burglary, and a judge entered a not guilty plea on Kohberger's behalf to the charges in May of 2023. The case had been stalled for months in pre-trial motions regarding the location of the trial and what evidence could be included, leading to frustration from the victims' families. Um, to the families, right? To the families of Zayna, Ethan, Maddie, and Kaylee. I know that this is really, really hard. I know that these wheels of justice, they're turning really, really slow. And you want this part, this chapter of it all, to be over. It's like being in a nightmare. You're getting up, you're waking up every day, and you don't have resolve. Most of these cases, they generally will take a couple of years to lead to the trial. And then, of course, you get the verdict and then possibly sentencing, right? No one can tell you how your life is put on hold, right? How you're not able to move forward. Just getting up, putting clothes on every day could be a task, let alone processing all of this information. Um, it's hard. It's beyond hard. It's no words. Um, you still have other kids. that you're responsible for, that you have to care for, you have to love, you have to provide for. And nothing stops. Nothing stops in your world on top of the case being open. It's like a bleeding heart. It doesn't stop. The pain doesn't stop. The thoughts don't stop. And you want justice. It's hard to find peace in that type of pain. It can't be described. I see it as a nightmare because you suffer. Nobody knows how bad and how hard it can be. Um, you just go on day by day, and people on the outside, they don't understand what is happening to you. It takes a part of you when you lose somebody like this in this manner. And I'm praying for you. I hope everyone in the community that can express concern, care, and support, that they do it for you. I hope that just as my platform is speaking out, seeking the justice, wanting to see the right thing happen in this case, that they don't forget about you, because your kids were victims, but you have now stood in the line, in the door as a victim too, because you're going through a lot. I can't even imagine it. So we want to always remember all of you, your families, your other kids, and be sensitive to the fact that you're going through a hard, difficult, challenging situation that you haven't had any experience. And it's only so much that other people can do, but we can show you that we care and we're concerned. Okay? So let me move off of that. We just want to know about the evidence, Steve Goncalves, the father of Kaylee Goncalves, said on Today in February. There's just a lot of unknowns. How long do you have to wait before you can find out about your own child's life and what happened? Who did this, and how do you hold them accountable? Attorneys for Kohberger argued in front of judge on May 2nd that prosecutors were withholding key evidence. Kohberger's legal team alleged prosecutors weren't handing over key pieces of evidence in discovery, including parts of a video that allegedly shows a vehicle matching Kohberger's car at the scene of the murders. The court should ask itself, what is the state trying to hide here? Taylor asked. In court, prosecutors denied they were keeping the materials from the defense. The characterization that we are just consciously withholding information to frustrate the defense is utter nonsense. I can tell you many of the things that the defendants has tried to itemize when we talk to our people who say they don't exist. That doesn't exist. Prosecutor Bill Thompson said, well, to the point of the car and the video of the car, why don't they have that? This is August of 2024. This article was in July of 2024, updated in July of 2024. Why don't they have that evidence? Why don't they have the evidence that you used in the PCA and possibly before the grand jury to get Bryan Kohberger's indictment? That was over a year ago. That was back in, I want to say, May of 2023, and it's August of 2024, and they're still trying to get this evidence. That's not right. That's just not right. All right. Kohberger's attorneys asked for an upcoming hearing to discuss their surveillance video and other discovery materials to be open to the public, though judge ruled with the prosecution to keep the May 14th hearing private. And that's another thing about this case. So much has been done privately. It's almost like you don't even have a public case. I guess it's going to all come out in the trial. But typically, you don't have this many hearings and motions where you can't read them and you can't obtain them. Eventually, the evidence, the testimony, the witnesses is going to have to come forward. Your cards, you have to show them at some point. And if you got a solid case, I wouldn't worry so much about them trying to refute it. If your evidence was obtained legally, is valid, it depicts Bryan Kohberger or a suspect. We don't even have to talk about him. The suspect, I don't see what the issue is about any of the things that you purport, that you use, that you put in the grand jury, that you put in these PCAs. You should be able to stand on what you use to get that indictment of Bryan Kohberger. That's just my opinion. Anyway, the Gonclave's family expressed frustration at the months of delays in the case. This banter has been going on for 17 months. Then, once you get a hearing, you have a hearing about the decision that was made at that hearing before the last hearing, and there needs to be another hearing, the Gonclave's family said in a statement on May 2nd. He's absolutely right. I can understand the frustration because you're going to a hearing about a prior hearing to discuss what was done at the hearing, and it's like there's never any decisions made. And then they say, okay, well, we're going to set another hearing to talk about it. Why isn't there any movement, any progress? This case is turning into a hamster wheel of motions, hearings, and delayed decisions. Not every motion needs a hearing. Listen, I agree with you. I agree with you, Steve. I really do, because it would help set things on track. And I think if there was a different style, like if there was a different judge, for example, they would make decisions. They would make a judgment on these motions. They wouldn't have to always have hearings to discuss the motion before making a decision. But no, that's not what's happening. The judge ruled in April that the defense could continue surveying potential jurors in Latah County, Idaho, as part of an effort to change the venue of the trial. He initially ordered for the defense to stop contacting local residents about the trial, but reversed course on April 22nd, ruling that Kohberger's attorneys may continue its surveys without modification to the survey questions, according to court documents obtained by NBC News. And look at the results. 70% have already found Bryan Kohberger, the suspect, guilty, and there hasn't even been a trial started. No evidence put on. That lets you know, yes, we need to move the trial. He has a right to a fair trial, okay? And that's not going to happen if it's done in Latah County. You have to move it, change the venue. If they go with Boise or whatever larger city, to get a bigger number, a more mixed number, right? Okay. At hearings earlier in April, prosecutors objected against the survey, which included questions about the trial. They argued some of the questions violated the judge's gag order in the case and accused a defense expert of intentionally tainting potential jurors. NBC News analyst Danny Savalas said on April 23rd, a change of venue is difficult to obtain, but if this survey really tends to show that Latah County potential jurors are just so completely biased against the defendant, then they may have a chance of moving it, Savalas said on Today. Gonclave's family expressed their frustration with the way the case was being handled in an April 23rd statement to NBC News. The survey is a ruse being used by the defense in an attempt to keep the trial out of Latah County, the Gonclave's family said. We pray the trial stays with the citizens of Latah County and justice is served. Now, this is what I want to kind of say. Do you want someone convicted or do you want the killer or killers convicted? Because there's a continuum. There is, let's find the killers, let's build a case, let's prosecute the killers, let's obtain a conviction for the killer or killers. And then there's this idea of let's convict this person. The evidence has to rise to a level where a person is in questioning. For example, was there a secondary killer? Was there someone else? Right? That could be just a thought. Was there more than one person? Another question could be, was the students that were not unalive, were they involved? Did they do this? Because they didn't call 911. They didn't run. And when they use their phones, they text each other allegedly, and they also text their friends. That's another possibility, right? Another thing that someone may want to bring up is there's been some other cases in this area, in close states and within the state, that has similar deaths late into the late night, early morning. The dates are similar and they're also by stabbing. So someone may want to assert that there was a serial killer, right? It's like I could go on and on and on, but I just want to make sure that we're looking at everything, all of the evidence, and whoever is prosecuted, whoever goes to trial, there is a conviction based on that person and the evidence that's brought forth. Because I think we have a lot of problems with the prosecution of Bryan Kohberger as the suspect. I'm sure as other people have brought forth their other potential suspects that are probably more likely, especially when there's a crime such as this that suggests that the person knew the victims. And that's with the level of stabbings, the fact that nobody called 911, nobody tried to get away. The statements are inconsistent. Like there's a lot going on. But anyway, let's continue with the article. Um, Attorneys for Kohberger submitted an alibi to the court on April 17th, saying he was out driving alone on the night of the slayings, according to court documents. According to Idaho state law, defendants using an alibi must give the state notice of the details of the alibi, and a judge set an April 17th deadline for Kohberger's attorneys. Mr. Kohberger was out driving in the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, as he often did, to hike and run and or see the moon and stars, Kohberger's attorneys wrote in the filing obtained by NBC News. Kohberger's attorneys wrote in the filing they will offer expert testimony to cast doubt on prosecutors' evidence placing Kohberger near the scene of the crime, including cell phone data. No witnesses were listed in the filing. So again, on top of everything I've already kind of said, they have records, they have cell phone data that's going to be contrary to the prosecution, which is going to show Bryan Kohberger in a different area, not 1122 King Road or in this area at that time during the time frame of the murders. Now, this is something that I kind of alluded to I don't even know how many months ago or a year ago or whatever, that when I looked into the GPS and how GPS works and how tracking works and all of that, and also reading the PCA of Brett Payne, I found that the prosecution's evidence was not reliable because it wasn't reliable even the next day after the murders. Um, you can check out that video. I detail it all, but if they have evidence contrary, then why is the defense records and the prosecution records, they're contrary? If everybody's using the same cell phone data, why does the defense have an expert that's going to refute what the prosecution is saying? I just put it to you easy. The records aren't accurate. I'm sorry, I don't know what evidence they have, but even reading Brett Payne's PCA, they said then their records weren't accurate. They didn't say that, but you can assess that from reading what they said when they said they knew that Bryan Kohberger was in a different area, although the cell phone data showed that he was in this area, which was not accurate. So how can you accept that and also accept that the other information they gave is right? We know it's not right, but again, they have an expert. They'll put him on to refute it if this goes to trial. Um, Judge previously appeared skeptical of Kohberger's alibi when his defense attorney first raised it last year. The so-called alibi, not really an alibi, Judge said during a hearing in August of 2023. You're suggesting there might be some witnesses, then cough them up. Well, maybe a witness can be video because we're in the technology phase. People have cameras, businesses have cameras. Maybe that's going to be part of the evidence that leads him in a different direction, not going towards 1122 King Road. Because remember, if they're going off the white style type, a launcher style vehicle, we already know there was a lot of white style four-door vehicles. It's late at night into the early morning hours. So maybe they're going to have not just the cell phone data, but videos that is leading Mr. Kohberger away from this area, 1122 King Road. I don't know, but because he was alone that night, he doesn't have a physical witness, but he could demonstrate his actions through video also, not just the cell phone data. Anyway, let's move on. In court documents filed August 2nd, 2023, Kohberger's Idaho defense attorneys gave an outline of his defense and alibi. Mr. Kohberger has long had a habit of going for drives alone. His attorney, Ann Taylor, wrote in the filing. Often he would go for drives at night. He did so late on November 12th and into November 13th, 2022. Corroborating evidence that Kohberger was not at the scene of the crime will come from cross-examination of the state's witnesses and presentation of defense experts at the trial, his attorney said. So his attorney is asserting that through cross-examination, they're going to also be able to corroborate what Bryan Kohberger is saying. Mr. Kohberger is not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time. At this time, there is not a specific witness to say precisely where Mr. Kohberger was at each moment of the hours between late night November 12th, 2022 and early morning November 13th, 2022. He was out driving during the late night and early morning hours of November 12th through the 13th, 2022, Taylor wrote. Taylor added, at this time, Mr. Kohberger cannot be more specific about the possible witnesses and exactly what they will say. The trial is now scheduled to start June 2nd, 2025. Kohberger waived his right to a speedy trial in August of 2023, delaying the trial that was originally scheduled for October 2nd, 2023. Pretrial hearing scheduled for September 22nd, 2023 will also postpone until October 26th because of an unspecified illness, further delaying proceedings. The state of Idaho also asked the court to prohibit cameras in the courtroom ahead of the trial, which was opposed by a coalition of journalists, including NBC News, a judge declined the state's request on October 26, 2023. So there you're going to have some still cameras, which will be very helpful so we can see everything. Another outstanding issue was the investigators' use of investigative genetic genealogy to track down Kohberger ahead of his arrest. IgG is a newer practice that includes the use of genetic information from DNA databases available to the public, such as Family Tree DNA and 23andMe. The prosecution has argued that they're not using the IgG portion of their investigation as part of their current case against Kohberger. On the other hand, the defense has argued that anything in this case is relevant. So just because the prosecutor doesn't want to use it as evidence, it doesn't mean you don't have to provide it to the defense. They still have a right to view that evidence. And did you use it when you went to the grand jury? Did you use that to get the indictment of Bryan Kohberger? You can't just say, well, now I changed my mind. It doesn't work like that. Anyway, in January 2024, the mother of Kaylee Goncalves spoke to NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz on Today about the anxiety surrounding the long wait for a trial date to be set. We know if they don't push for this summer, we're looking at a year, over a year, and that's mind-boggling, Christy Goncalves said. It's sickening. Kohberger is suspected in the deaths of Chapin 20, Mogan 21, Coronado 20, and Goncalves 21, four University of Idaho students who were killed in a home near campus on November 13, 2022. Police and the local Latah County coroner believe the students were killed inside the house as they slept, though some had defensive wounds. The three women were roommates in the house while Chapin was Coronado's boyfriend who was spending the night, authorities said. So we already know if you have defensive wounds, it's unlikely that you're sleeping because you really don't have a chance to fight back. You're usually woke when the encounter happens and then you're fighting. If you're asleep, you typically will just suffer the wounds and not get up. Typically. So I do believe that Kaylee was woke, and I believe that Zaina was woke. Those are the two that had the extensive defensive wounds. Two other roommates who were unharmed later discovered the bodies and called 911. The next morning, police added. Following Kohberger's arrest at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, he was extradited to Idaho to face charges of 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 felony burglary charge, authorities said. At a hearing in May, Kohberger stood silent in court, and a judge entered not guilty pleas on his behalf in all of the charges. Kohberger was a PhD student at Washington State University, just across the state line in Pullman, Washington, in the Criminal Justice Department. University officials confirmed in a statement December 30th, 2022. They added that Wayne State WSU Police Department had helped Idaho law enforcement officials search both Kohberger's apartment and office on the WSU campus on the morning of December 30th, 2022. At a December 30th, 2022 press conference, police confirmed that Kohberger maintained an apartment residence in Pullman as a student, but is originally from Pennsylvania. Kohberger did his undergraduate and master's degrees at DeSalle University, a private Catholic university in Latah County, Pennsylvania. He got his bachelor's degree in 2020 and finished his graduate studies in June of 2022. The school confirmed in a statement. He got his master's degree in criminal justice according to the school's commencement announcement at the time. After news of Kohberger's arrest, internet searches from a Reddit post where Kohberger apparently had asked volunteers for a graduate research project to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making while committing a crime. DeSalle University confirmed the email address listed on the post had belonged to Kohberger when he was a student there. A probable cause affidavit, which detailed the evidence used to charge and arrest Kohberger, was unsealed on January 5th. In the affidavit, authorities laid out evidence linking Kohberger to the crime, including DNA samples, cell phone records, and the movements of a white Hyundai Elantra. According to the affidavit, a tan leather knife sheath with K-bar and USMC, along with U.S. Marine Corps insignia stamped on it, was located on a bed in the home next to Morgan's body while processing the crime scene on November 13th, 2022. Investigators were able to locate a single source of male DNA left on the button snap of the knife sheath, according to the affidavit. Police recovered trash on December 27, 2022, from Kohberger's parents' home, and the DNA from the knife sheath showed a connection to the DNA profile obtained from the trash, the affidavit stated. Police said during a press conference December 30th, 2022, that the weapon used in the attack, believed to be a fixed blade knife, has still not been located. Investigators applied for search warrants for Kohberger's cell phone records, according to the affidavit, and the records showed Kohberger's phone traveling through Pullman, Washington, around 2:47 a.m. on November 13th, 2022. The phone stopped reporting to the cellular network shortly after, and investigators wrote in the affidavit they believe Kohberger either disabled the phone or turned it off. The phone didn't report to the network again until 4:48 a.m., according to the affidavit, which showed the phone heading from Idaho toward Washington. Police in Moscow had previously announced that they had been searching for a white Hyundai Elantra as a possible piece of evidence. After the Moscow Police Department asked law enforcement to be on the lookout for the Hyundai Elantra on November 25th, 2022, a WSU officer searched the school database and found Kohberger's registration to a student apartment complex in Pullman on November 29th at 12:28 a.m. Less than 30 minutes later, another WSU officer found Kohberger's car in the parking lot of the building while searching for white Hyundai Elantras. Law enforcement sought out any footage from the area the morning of the killings, and according to the court documents, police found footage of what they believed to be a white Hyundai Elantra involved in the slayings the morning of the incident at 3:25 a.m. The vehicle passed by the victim's residence 3 times, starting at 3:29 a.m., according to the affidavit. The fourth time the car passed by the home was at 4:04 a.m., and it was then seen leaving the neighborhood at a high rate of speed at 4:20 a.m. WSU cameras picked up the sedan departing Pullman the morning of the killings around 2:44 a.m. and heading east toward Moscow and returning about 5:25 a.m., according to the affidavit. So that's where the cell phone data would be very important, because it would demonstrate what towers are being picked up. Can they do triangulation where they can figure out where he is at specific times? Because that would show the placement of where he is in comparison to the murder scene, 1122 King Road, right? If it happened there. The affidavit also revealed new details from interviews with the roommates who were home during the attack and survived. Both roommates spoke with investigators, according to the affidavit, and one said she came almost face to face with the suspect. The roommate, Dylan Mortensen, who was identified in court documents as DM, said she first woke up around 4 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, when she heard what she thought was Gonclaves playing with her dog. A short time later, DM said she heard who she thought was Gonclave say something to the effect of, "There's someone here," the affidavit said. She opened her door multiple times after hearing crying in a male voice, according to the affidavit, and after opening it for the third time, she saw a man wearing a mask that covered his nose and mouth around 5 feet 10 inches and not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows, the court document said. Morrison said the man walked past her toward a sliding glass as she stood in a frozen shock phase. After seeing the person whom she did not recognize, she locked herself inside her room, she told authorities. Soon after Kohberger waived his right to a speedy trial, the prosecution and investigators asked the University of Idaho for access to the home on King Road. The FBI visited for several days this fall, getting documentation to construct visual and audio exhibits and a physical model of the home, according to an October 31st, 2023 release from the university. Plywood covering the windows and doors were removed for the process and then recovered, the release also said. The house was demolished at the end of December 2023, leading to mixed reactions from the community. So I gave it all to you. I read it all for you. Please tell me what you think. Any comments? I'll read them and I'll respond if needed. Thank you for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. Please give me your thoughts if you would like. And remember, stay smart, stay safe, stay safe. Be well, all my friends. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Bye.